3, 2, 1.
Racing World is presented by Race Control Magazine. Welcome into this week's edition of Racing World. Hi, I'm Darcy Waldegrave along with this guy, Bob McMurray, that guy, David Turner. We are an action-packed show for you today. Very special guest on the program, young Formula 3 hot shoe Liam Lawson will join us from, the middle of the night, his time, to look back at what has been a pretty successful season, although if we know Liam, he won't be overly happy with it because he didn't win the championship.
Chances are he'll be a little bit grumpy, but he's not grumpy, but yeah, he didn't win, and you know he's not happy.
He's only grumpy because we're waking up in the middle of the night.
That's probably it. We'll be joined by Liam Lawson shortly. Also around this, we'll be looking back at what happened at the SuperCars over the weekend with the very odd situation where in one race it was Kiwi 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
first time that's happened in supercar history.
Didn't they rub it into Mark Scaife? But anyway.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say Mark Fogarty.
No, not Fogarty.
We'll do that.
Fogs, yes. Oh, God.
We'll also look back at a hugely successful weekend for Brendon Hartley in LeMans, and then we'll turn around and we'll look forward to what's coming up in the weekend. We've got more supercars at Tailem Bend. I don't like that place. We're going to look back at the MotoGP. I'm sorry. We've got Formula 1 coming up next weekend at Sochi as well. And we'll cover all that off and more here on Racing World. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you can. It might keep us actually doing this for yet another week. You can listen in through Spotify, through Radio Public and Anchor FM as well. And, of course, on YouTube. You'll be watching this right here, right now. This is Racing World. Let's have a chat with Liam Lawson. And here on Racing World, we're lucky enough to be joined by hot shoe Liam Lawson in the middle of the night, his time fresh after his fun and games at Formula 3. He joins us. A very good afternoon, a very good morning, a very good day to you, Mr. Lawson. Thanks for joining us on Racing World. I trust you're well.
Thank you very much for having me.
Liam, I know firsthand what it's like to get up at the middle of the night to talk to these boys because I had a few years of doing that at Indy, so I sympathise for you. You might not get the sympathy from these two, but you definitely get it from me. So hang in there, bud. It'll be a slightly painful experience, and then it's done and dusted.
Liam, we find you in England, not very far from the Silverstone circuit, where you've been now for a few days. I guess after the rigours of Formula 3 and everything being jammed together, this is a bit of time to get a breath, isn't it, for you to actually kind of almost relax, although I know you don't relax too much, but just relax a little bit.
Yeah, it has been absolutely crazy to race we did 9 race weekends in 11 weeks. So it's weird now to not be doing anything. I've had a week off and basically just been filling the time with as much training as I can. Actually, tomorrow I go off for 2 days with the training group that I work with to do a couple of days. And just waiting basically to find out what happens next. But it is nice to have a little bit of time off now to relax.
So where do you say going off training? Is that with Red Bull somewhere overseas from England?
No, it's not actually with Red Bull. It's with a training group I work with and have worked with the last couple of years called AWP. So it's just, yeah.
I'm presuming you've had time as well now to reflect on the season with all of its ups and downs. Have you spent much time mulling over what you've achieved or what in your mind you haven't achieved? Where does it sit with this season? What have you done? What are you happy? What are you not happy with?
Obviously, the goal going in was to win the championship, and we didn't do that. So it's definitely a little bit disappointing. Well, it's very disappointing, to be honest, especially because I think we were very capable of doing it this year. The speed was there. We just had too many little issues that didn't need to happen. We didn't get on top of enough, I think, which was from myself, from the team as well. We just didn't quite put it together a lot of the time, which was frustrating. We had very unlucky situations with the mechanical failures, both races in Budapest. Obviously, without those, we would have been in a much better position. But even with those failures, we still could have won this championship had we have been on top of a few things a little bit more. So it's a little bit disappointing for sure, looking back. But obviously, it's good and bad to look back, to learn on things. Obviously, it's what I want to do, and I have done, but it's also not good to dwell on it, I guess.
What about improvements? You'd look to yourself year in, year out as to how you're improving actually as a driver, your physicality, your headspace and the like as well. Where do you think your big improvements have been this year in Formula 3?
I would say something that has stepped up a lot, and is something I work with because I have a coach, and he's very much a performance mental sort of coach. And I've been working with him the last couple of years, 3 years now actually. So, and last year, obviously when I got signed with Red Bull, there definitely was a lot more pressure than what I was used to. And I, to be honest, at the start struggled to deal with it. I was always thinking about what the other Red Bull juniors were doing and whether I was doing well enough and what the doctor was thinking and stuff like this. And to be honest, none of that helps. So it's something that we really focused on throughout last year and got a lot better. And this year as well, to be honest, this year I've been really, really comfortable with the team as well. So on that side of things, it's improved a lot. Obviously, little mistakes I made throughout the season. Obviously, to look back and improve. Obviously, nobody's perfect, but there were definitely things I could have done better, such as, I guess, the race in Red Bull Ring where I crashed from the leads in the race. It just didn't need to happen. So little stuff like that, for sure, is what I've learned from, I guess.
And one of the things that I've noticed this year, and we've talked about it here as well, is the volume of cars that have been in the F3 races. You know, you might not have seen it because most of it's been in your rear vision mirror, which is good. Does that say something for the state of F3? Like, it's obviously in a pretty positive place, really, isn't it?
Well, it's arguably the most competitive championship. Obviously, F3 and F2. I think last year F3 was extremely competitive relative to F2, and this year it's sort of a bit more spread. They've a couple of F3 drivers go to F2 this year, so I think both championships are extremely tough. But obviously, we have 30 cars and not 20, so it is extremely tough. And obviously, this year, I guess, for example, obviously with Prema, they obviously dominated again a lot of the season, and they've been very hard to beat. So it is extremely tough, but it certainly prepares you for the next step.
It speaks to the toughness of the series. When you look at the top few, there was winning it was an Australian, unfortunately, but there you go. Then a Frenchman, then an American, then a guy from Denmark, and then you. 5 different countries in 5 different places. You finished up 5th in the championship, only 21 points behind, which when you look at the couple of unfortunate things, your engine blew up. That looked spectacular, by the way. With lots of flames out the back and things like that. You could have easily won the championship. Now, you talk about mechanical things. You seem to have got it sorted out for that very last race, because that was an absolute rocket ship. Was there something in the gearbox or in the diff or something like that that hadn't been spotted all the year that wasn't to your liking?
Yeah, we made a change. Basically, at the very, very start of the year, we made a change in Bahrain, and we did something that we wouldn't normally do, and it helped a lot. And I think we left that for most of the season. And to be honest, basically we made a very similar change before the last race, and obviously it was really, really good. So it is a shame that we didn't do this earlier. But I don't think this was it was just this race. We put everything together. We put the car balance was good. And I feel like for us this year, our window has been a lot smaller. If you look at the Premas or even some of the other teams, they're a lot more consistent with the speed. And with us, when the car's good, it's really good and we're absolutely fine. But our window seems really small, and it's something that the biggest telling sign for me was actually Silverstone. The first Silverstone, we qualified second in quali, and the car was absolutely mega. Best car driven all season. And to be honest, we should have been on pole by nearly half a second, but I messed up the lap at the last part. I lost like 3.5 tenths, and we just missed out on pole. So this for me the car was really, really good. We raced obviously the next weekend in Silverstone again, same track, conditions were really similar, wind was slightly different, and the car was terrible. And we ran it pretty much the same, and it was just slight condition change, and we were completely out of the window. So it's something that I feel like this year our window's been really small, but the pace has been there. We just haven't been on top of it enough, and also I think we took. It's not something I wanted to do, but I feel like we took a little bit too many risks when we didn't need to. We sort of gambled on a few things that we didn't need to. In Budapest, when it was wet, the quality there, for example, we were fast in the first run. We did 2 runs, 2 sets of tyres. In the first run, we were sitting in the top 4, and it was fast. And because the team thought that the weather was going to the track was going to get better, we dropped tyre pressures. We went back out, and the track was the exact same, and we just couldn't get any tire temp, and we absolutely struggled, and then we qualified outside the top 10. And this has happened a few times this year. Obviously, the Spa race one, I just went backwards. This is because of something that we just didn't need to do, and it didn't work. And it's basically every time we tried something, it sort of backfired for us.
Sorry, David, the team you're driving for, High Tech, is a championship winning team. They know what they're doing. They know what they're about. Do you think and this is not to apportion blame, this is just trying to understand the situation. Do you think they maybe didn't lead you in the right direction, being you're still learning, but they're not? They should know. Did they have change of management? Did they have change of engineer? Was there a slight disconnect between you and the team at some point?
It's a very similar team to last year. And no, I don't think so. I think at the very start of the season, obviously this year High Tech went into F2 as well. It was their first season of F2. So I think potentially at the start of the year, especially those first 2 rounds in Austria, a lot of the focus was on the F2 side. And we sort of, it's hard for me to say, and I don't know completely, but I feel like maybe we were a little bit sort of overlooked a little bit, and then realised obviously we struggled and we needed to get on top of things, and we did. And when we got to Budapest and Silverstone, Budapest we didn't show our true pace because we had 2 engine failures, but we were really fast. And with Silverstone we did show it a lot more. But yeah, to be honest, it's a bit of a tricky question, not something that I don't know completely, to be honest.
One of the things too, Liam, that I'm interested in, which is kind of slightly away from the racing side of it, is obviously you're on the other side of the world, and yet you've travelled to these countries. What part has COVID played on things for you this year? Obviously it doesn't make life easy. It doesn't make life easy here right now either, but, it certainly impacts just everything from your training onwards, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've done like 50 COVID tests this year because we had to do them every 5 days. And they are properly, honestly, it is the worst. And the first time, after I did it the first time, the thing is, the first test, the first race weekend, we had a massive mess up where I went and did a COVID test because you have to do it within 5 days of when you travel. And so we did it on the Monday, and it came back inconclusive. And I couldn't get another test done, which means I couldn't fly because you had to show paperwork that you'd done the COVID test to fly to Austria. So we ended up just at the last minute deciding, right, we're just going to drive. As we drove, it was Wednesday night. We drove. We stopped in Brussels in Belgium. I got 3 hours sleep, and then we were back on the road again. It was an 18-hour trip. We got there late on Thursday evening. And then I was in the car the next day, and then I found out that you didn't need to show any paperwork on the flight, and it was all a waste of time completely. So that wasn't ideal. But
at the end of the day, COVID's played a part then.
Yes, it has. Throughout the season as well, yeah.
It wasn't for the lack of driving when you arrived there, though, was it? You've driven a long way.
I think that's the thing, that people have underestimated is the impact that does, and you've just summed it up quite nicely, is the fact that all of that does play an impact on what happens to you in terms of your preparation and stuff for a race weekend, because suddenly it all goes out of the traditional rules, if you like, into these things of, driving and having things stuck up your nose all the time and stuff like that.
It's strange. Obviously, like you have to wear masks everywhere now, and it's at the point now where it almost, when I walk outside now without a mask, I feel a bit naked. I almost feel like, because I'm so used to wearing one, because we wear them everywhere, and then you speak to people and you don't know how serious they are about the social distancing and stuff like this, and it makes things really, really awkward. And you want to shake hands with somebody, but then you don't know if you can. You want a fist pump, or you don't know what they're going to do. So it makes things really awkward like that.
I see you're still resplendent in your Red Bull merchandise. They're looking good. What's your relationship like with them going? How's that been working throughout the season?
It's been really good. Obviously, I guess from my side as well, and from their side, we expected a bit more this year. But in terms of the performance side, I think it's been okay. And as I said before, I try not to, this year especially, I haven't really thought about that side of it because it doesn't really help to think about what they are thinking. So I think it's okay. The work with them has been really good this year. Obviously, I've been in the simulator a lot before every race weekend we're in there. So that's been good to be able to keep doing that, even with COVID, to still go to the workshop there. And I mean, for the future, obviously, it's not I'm not talking to them, so I can't say exactly what the future will hold for next year and for the end of the year. But I hope we'll be okay.
you're not very far where you are now. You're not very far away from the Red Bull Formula One headquarters in the UK. Do you go there much? Are you able to use any of their facilities?
Yeah, so I can go there to use the gym, but obviously because I work with this training group, I don't do that so much. But we're in the simulator before every single race weekend we are. So we spend nearly a day basically in the simulator, and they give a full report on stuff, and so that side's really, really good. And also with the team, I go to the simulator there, so I get plenty of preparation before we go to the events.
So is that a Formula One simulator you're in, or have they got a separate one for you?
It's not the Formula One simulator. They won't show me it. I always ask when I'm in there, but they will never show me it. It's very confidential. But we drive and it is a Formula One simulator. It's the old one that they use, and it's the junior simulator that everybody, basically the juniors, all use. So it is pretty cool to get to go to the workshop, to the Formula One factory. It's sometimes I'll be sitting in reception, and Christian Horner will walk past, or one of the drivers will walk past, and it's pretty surreal sometimes.
So when you're in the simulator there, do you ever turn it on to Max Verstappen settings and have a go?
Yeah, I wish.
He doesn't need that. He's got Liam Lawson settings.
Oh, Liam Lawson settings. Yeah, okay.
Liam, aside the racing, with the elephant in the room is you're a really young man, and you're across on the other side of the world at uncertain times, away from your friends and away from your family. How are you coping with that? How's that working?
Hasn't been too bad. I think this year was a bit strange. Normally my parents would come over at some point of the season. But to be honest, because the season's been so compact, I've been gone 4 months, I think now. So it hasn't been too bad. But it is different. And it is a bit strange this year because you never know what's going on. And currently in the UK, the cases are going up again. It's getting quite bad. So there's potential that we could be going back into a lockdown soon. And I have no idea at this stage when I'm coming back home either. So there's a lot of uncertainty.
So as you're sitting there now, your immediate future, and I'm not asking you to predict, your immediate future, your medical future, your living future is kind of a fog in front of you, isn't it? I mean, there's you haven't got any specific direction to aim at the moment apart from keeping fit.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Right now, obviously, we finished the season and it was really strange the first couple of days doing nothing. So basically I just stuck right into training the last week, and obviously this week again. But I have literally no idea what is going to happen after next. I mean, hopefully we should find in the next couple of weeks at least some sort of plan. But at this stage I don't know at all. So at the moment I'm just training and waiting and seeing.
One of the other things that I noticed, particularly with F3 and then even into F2 now, is the number of drivers that you've been competing with that you kind of got a bit of a taste of back down here in Toyota Racing Series, and you're seeing that development of drivers that have come down here back up into Europe. So it's been quite handy, I guess, in some ways, of being able to size up a little bit of the competition at the very least anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously a lot of them drove last year in F3 as well, and in other series like in F4. But I guess that is one of the coolest things about TRS, is it draws on people from all sorts of championships around the world. It could be even GTs or anything that to come and race in. So you get a massive level. I mean, for my first season, obviously, I was quite young, and I was able to be teammates with Lucas Sauer, who at that point was a Mercedes factory DTM driver, and had Marcus here, obviously, with Ferrari. So that season was pretty cool to get to learn off those guys. But you do get to race against guys from all sorts of different championships. And this year, it was the first time I'd done a championship twice, in the same car at least. Obviously, I'd done TRS twice, but it was in a different car. So driving the second season was my first time, and it's certainly having the experience, especially with the tyre, because that's the biggest thing to get your head around. That certainly helped a lot.
I mean, despite what you think is not being the most successful season, you are the most successful Red Bull driver in Formula 3 in that championship. You are also one of the most successful Formula drivers in the Red Bull scholarship program overall. So, that's not all bad, is it?
No, it's not. And yeah, I think it's really hard to comment exactly what it's like. I don't know completely what to say about this year. Obviously, it definitely, looking back, and I still watch the races, obviously, to look back on them. And it is extremely frustrating because I really think we could have, not easily, but we could have really done the job this year with the championship. So yeah, obviously it's still a good season, but I think we could have been in a much better position.
You're a racing driver. You're always going to say that.
Be proud of what you've done, mate. You know, like we debate this around the table nearly every week here, and the common theme is for people like yourself is be very proud of what you've achieved, because there are plenty of other people that haven't even achieved that. So as a New Zealander, when we get to watch those races back here, we get pretty barred up when we see you doing what you're doing, and it's something, you know, that's going to live with you to you're older, and well done.
Yeah, and believe me, sitting around this table here, on Monday morning, we're all much better racing drivers than the race drivers we saw at the weekend, except we weren't there. so yeah, we think you're doing a bloody fine job, mate, honestly.
Thank you. It is. I mean, I'm extremely lucky. And you said it is very rare to have a Kiwi doing something like this. So I'm extremely lucky to be in this position. I really wish that more New Zealanders had the same opportunity, because for me, at least in the last 4 years, everything's just lined up perfectly to make this happen. So I do wish that a lot more people had this opportunity, especially from New Zealand, because at the moment, obviously, at this level anyway, in F2 and F3, it's just me and Marcus.
Well, we're looking forward to you navigating your way successfully through the fog of your future. As soon as you know, we'll know what happens in your future. Liam Lawson, thanks very much for joining us. And again, on behalf of all of us, congratulations on what was a thrilling season, albeit not the success you're after. Thanks very much for your time.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
And Liam Lawson joining us there on Racing World. We'll be back with more shortly here with us three buggers without the young fella.
Perspective Group is a leading media production company based in Auckland, New Zealand. Established in 2009 by former TVNZ producer David Turner, Perspective Group offers you a vast arrangement of media options to fit any size or budget. It covers truly global services supported by some of New Zealand's leading media talents. For more information, contact Perspective Group Limited at perspectivegroupltd@gmail.com and check out the website perspectivegroupltd.com, where you'll find even more information on creating your media solutions.
You have a dream. You have all the drive in the world. You have talent to burn. Now all you need is a chance. Toyota are committed to developing and nurturing New Zealand's next generation of world-class racing drivers, because if you can dream it, we can do it.
This is the Racing World podcast. Glad you're watching us on YouTube, or maybe listening on Spotify or Radio Public or Anchor FM. If you are, please like and subscribe. That'll help us carry on our merry old way. Right, boys, plenty to look back on over the weekend. I suppose, Bob, the most significant event for the weekend when it comes to racing, even though there was no one there, I believe, two media and a media dog, but Le Mans still happened over the weekend, and it happened with great success for that young man, Brendon Hartley, who's rapidly carving out quite an impressive career behind the wheel of pretty much everything.
Yeah, amazing, really. I mean, it's his second win. Second time Le Mans 24-hour champion, which is pretty good. We mustn't forget, of course, he did not win the race himself. Kazuki Nakajima and Sebastian Buemi were partnering him in the car. But clearly those cars, he was in the number 8 car, the number 7 car actually led for a lot of the race anyway, and was the faster car by far. But once again, the 7 car with Conway and I can't remember the other guys now, that failed again. It's like it's done 2 years in a row. So, but you can't deny 24 hours of racing at those speeds. I mean, for goodness sakes, I don't know what the final speed of the race was, because, you have yellows and safety and slow zones and stuff like that, but a remarkable achievement on Brendon Hartley's part and his 2 co-drivers.
Well, it also signifies the Kiwis at Le Mans, because don't forget Earl Bamber's been there a couple of times as well. So, we've got this new generation of drivers that we have becoming the, new generation that we kind of have always dreamed of. It's the evolution of the the Denny Holmes and the Chris Amons and Bruce McLarens. We've now got Brendon Hartley, Lawson's, and it's actually coming to the front, which is
Would it
great.
be too much to suggest this really is foundation laying? It's the Kiwis are always involved in motorsport, but I suppose when you look at a wider picture, you say, well, we look to these shaky isles now because we know that these guys can perform. Look at what they're doing, and they've turned up and they've done well at Le Mans. They're doing well in F2, and they're doing well in F3, and they're doing well in World, so on and so forth.
IndyCar, they're not doing too
IndyCar,
badly either.
and the supercars too as well. But it really is, it's foundation laying, isn't it? We can't underestimate the importance of these continued success and attitude of these guys. So I think it's a huge part of it as well.
It's amazing. You always think, okay, that's the generation, that's the last generation of Kiwi drivers we've got. Yet there's more coming through all the time, and I don't know how they manage to do it, frankly, especially in these hard times, with the money and all sorts of things, but their talent tends to take them forwards. Once they get recognised, their talent takes them forwards. Okay, Brendon didn't have the most stellar career in Formula One for various reasons that were not his fault. Formula E, thankfully, he went through that. And Nick Cassidy, good luck to you. I'm not saying that, but anyway, and Mitch Evans. But yeah, there's always this sort of drift through of Kiwi drivers starting at the very bottom, Ford first, Toyota Racing Series, and then progressing.
Well, it's
around the world.
aspirational too for the younger guys sitting here, and they're sitting there at 14 doing their gymkhana at the karts going, actually, there's no reason why I can't do this because it keeps happening year after year after year.
There is nothing
more
bigger
New Zealanders
than Formula One and the American Series, but in terms of world motorsport, it's Formula One World Championship, it's the Indy 500, and it's the Le Mans 24 Hours.
Triple
Brendon
crown.
Hartley has won it twice. For goodness sakes. I mean, it's just fantastic. It's just fantastic. I've got to say, I haven't spoken to anybody yet who sat down and watched the race, as in 24 hours, because I certainly didn't. I can't do that. You click in now and again. I get on Autosport, and you see what's happening as a sort of a 2 or 3 hour cup update each time. But yeah, it is a fascinating, dramatic race, and anybody who has not been there, which is the majority of people, obviously, really should go there and have a look at it once. When you can, when COVID is in the mirror, yeah.
What's the quality of the field like? Just in reference to, there's less and less marks involved. It's not quite as rich at the top level.
It's still pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the big thing, too, that you need to take into account with this year's Le Mans versus a normal one is it didn't happen, in that May-June period. It happened now. And a stat that came out the other day, which I kind of thought about for a while, is there was 4 extra hours of darkness in this year's race by comparison to normal.
Of course, it's later in the year.
Because it's later in the year.
Yeah.
4 extra hours of night driving.
Yeah.
And that approach speed, that dealing with the guys, the gentleman races in front of you, and it's a big difference. Because when you're watching that race, it does surprise you. That's one of the things that gets me. And then, of course, you've got that, doesn't change here, but the dusk or dawn running too, and how difficult that is.
It took me a while to understand that. And then I thought about it. I said, 4 hours. If you compare that to, say, the North Island Endurance event that we were at the weekend, that's the whole damn race.
In fact, there's the 2 races, 3 hours, 1 hour. Well, I mean, just in the top LMP1 class, there's only 5 cars entered, so that's a lot less than it used to be in the old days. Of course, there were the 2 Toyotas there, and then there were 2 Rebellions in there as well, which are specifically kind of made for endurance racing, as is the Toyotas. Then we had LMP2, which is quite a class. There's, let's see, 37 cars in there. LMGT Pro, there was cars in there, lots of cars in there, 7, 8, 9. And then maybe 20 cars in the LMGT AM, the amateur class. And when you think that the leader did 387 laps, and the last classified car, I believe, was 313 laps. So you're talking quite a lot of laps difference there. And that was, Anyway, it is a fascinating race. I've been there twice, seen it, not all of it, twice, some of it, twice. So congratulations once again to not only Toyota, but to Brendon and his 2 driving mates.
Big thing, congratulations to Brendon. He did an amazing job when he was home during our first lockdown period that we all had with starting up the Racing Local program and the simulator racing. So I'm going to take a slight little tangent here. He won at Le Mans, the founder, if you like, of Racing Local, or one of the other key people in Racing Local was Chris Vanderdrift.
Yep.
He won the 3-hour event with Glenn Smith, the North Island Endurance event at Hampton Downs on Saturday. So both boys came good. So, nice to see. And, they've both put in so much effort in terms of supporting local sport this year. It was nice to see them both get a victory on pretty much the same sort of day, really.
Yeah. Actually, to illustrate that gap you were talking about before, the best lap of the number 8 car was 3 minutes 19.762 seconds. If you go down to one of the slower laps, now this is a lap, don't forget, you go down to 4 minutes and 2 seconds. So you're talking over a minute on a lap. You imagine what the speed differential there is.
Yeah.
Way different. So, not only are you racing with light cars, you're racing with traffic's like going down from here to Wellington back.
The harbour bridge where it doesn't
3 or
move at
4
all.
times, not going over the harbour bridge.
Never get that bad. So great success at Le Mans. Just back to the endurance series. How did that go for that? I always find it odd that they call it endurance. That's a 1-hour race and a 3-hour race. It never doesn't seem very enduro to me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's grown in strength over the last few years.
Well, they're looking at the quality of the field more than anything else.
And quality cars in there. So it was the opening round of the Golden Homes North Island Endurance event. The South Island one had happened a couple of weeks ago. And it was good. The 1-hour race I thought was fantastic. Big volume of cars out there, which made it good.
Yeah,
the 3-hour race was kind of almost, it summed up the word endurance because it was a bit of survival of the fittest, but you have an Aston Martin, you have LeMans, McLaren cars, you've got an Audi, so it was good. So Glenn Smith and Chris Vanderdrift took out the 3-hour race in their McLaren, and then the sister car to that, which John DeVeth drove, took out the 1-hour race. So, I enjoyed it. And then we have the support categories, which Bob was there with Toyota 86, and then V8 Utes Championship, which went right to the wire of the very last race with Paul Manuel taking out the championship from Glenn Collinson.
Go, Paul. The old stager. Get on your son. Keep in there.
Yeah, well, he had an eventful weekend, didn't make the start of the first race, and it became very much where do I need to position myself to do this thing? So, it summed up a great season for the Utes in 86 non-championship, but it was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately,
it
was a non-championship. Yeah, it did. It was a non-championship simply because you can't carry the championship on for so long. And Jalen Rowbotham was one of the leading 2 or 3 cars in the championship, and he's in Australia. He's stuck there. And Jaden Ransley is stuck in the South Island. He couldn't come up for it. So it was declared. The championship was declared a little while ago. Peter Vodanovic won it because he was ahead on points. Simple as that. He received the prize, which at the moment is was a new TR86 road car. And they also had a prize giving. At the prize giving, they also had a name drawn out of a hat for one of the people that had done all the rounds, there were 8 drivers there that had done all the rounds. And Braden Phillips' name was drawn out of the hat for another Toyota 86 car. There you go, son. Just for turning up, you've just won that. So there's more prizes, obviously, but it was a really good championship. The racing at the weekend was good. There were 13 cars, I think, involved, which, you think, it's not so good. But because they're all very close in performance and close in performance drivers, you ended up with 2 or 3 groups, and the racing of each group was just
it was good.
Fantastic.
It was good stuff.
Peter Vodanovic won all 3 races. Connor Adam was right up there as well with him just about all the time.
Yeah, well, Connor carried on a goal that he'd set, which was 100% finish record for the season, which he achieved.
Yeah, he did that.
15 effective straight podium performances. So again, there's some goal setting going on there, and that was good. And then, of course, we went over the Tasman, and the Kiwis went 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But Vodanovic, where does he go to now?
That's what he doesn't know. He's got to tie up with Erebus to do the 3rd series over there. Super 3. Maybe Super 2, who knows? But everything, of course, has just been blown to pieces. He doesn't really know.
I think that, again, that's that evolution, like we were talking about even with Liam before, was the fact that you've got drivers now like Peter and Connor that are in the next phases of their career, so they're working out where that's going to be, whilst we have new drivers coming into the likes of 86s or TRS cars maybe this summer as well, and it's the start of that phase for them. So, sport is healthy in that sense in terms of its talent pool, that's for sure. The hard part for these guys right now, aided by COVID, obviously, is where do I go? And then if I go there, can I actually go there? And Callum Hedge is probably a great example of that. They were set to do Porsche Carrera Cup in Australia this year. The car got air freighted over. It was housed at Sonic Motorsport in Melbourne. COVID arrived. They couldn't get over there. Then the championship got called and the car got sea freighted all the way back. Never turned a wheel in the entire process. So, you know, there's a lot of extra outside factors.
Well, I was talking to John Lester last week, and he was in the endurance series over the weekend as well, having a yarn with him about what he's doing. He's spending more time running now because he can't do anything else. He's about to compete in an ultra marathon of 100K. That's what he's been doing, trying to get back to Japan. He just can't. He wants to go back there and race. He goes, what do I do? I've been stuck here now for 6 months running.
More miles driving from his place to the Japanese embassy to try and get a visa over the last 3 months. He's backwards and forwards trying to get in there. But yeah, look, it's disrupting the whole world.
Right, let's get somewhere we can go over the ditch, even if it's only by television. Have a look at Taylor Bend and what happened there. First of 6 races, really, wasn't it? We've got 3. We've got 3 coming up this weekend. Racing was good. There's some. There was the complex between 7, 8, 9, and 10, isn't it? That ridiculous corner that just keeps on going and going. There's some great parts of it. And I don't. You know what? I'm into aesthetics. You know, I like things to be pretty. I really enjoy it. That is so ugly, that place. I'm really sorry, felt like it's a great facility. It's a fantastic track. We see it all there, but
might even be a Formula One track.
Yeah, well, that's it. But like you sit there, it's just this endless flat plane of nothing. There is no characteristics except for the pylon standing there like sentinels, just looking at the racetrack right the way around. But I was like, oh, please, can I have some elevation? Can I have a tree? Can you do something for me? I should have been focusing on the cars. I'm sorry, but I just had to get that out.
I know what you mean.
Frustrating. You know what I'm saying about that?
But don't forget, the place is only a year and a bit old.
Granted.
So
the trees have got to grow. You know, that's how it works.
Really I know. Is there no hills in South Australia? Could they not just build a hill or something? Do something,
build a big
please.
hill somewhere.
But away from that, the racing, of course, was the big thing. And what do you take out of that? You take it was a wonderful time for Scott McLaughlin to actually further his lead in the championship ahead of the next round coming up this weekend. Of course, the series finishing in Bathurst. And there's a very good chance, if things go well next weekend, he could seal the title before they go to Bathurst. But for me, more what was it was the rotten weekend that Whincup had. He really did not have a good time around Taylor Bend, and that really played into the hands. As good as McLaughlin was, that really stretched that championship. And I was quite surprised. You saw how quick Shane was, even though he was a bit reckless toward the end there when he knocked off Heimgartner, who was particularly quick. He had a great weekend. Yeah, no, I was quite surprised from Whincup to actually fall away, considering how successful he's been.
He started off quite well until they got to the last corner of the first lap of the first race when he took off Scott McLaughlin and took them both off, in fact. Which left the whole field open for Fabian Coulthard to win his 200th entered event.
And warmest congratulations to Fabian as well for doing it, because he's been. We've been. I don't say we've put him under the pump, but we've been critical of what he's done. So I think you've got to
There's a lot of pressure in a team where you've got one guy really performing well, so you've got to up the ante as well, don't you?
That's what they asked him the question about that. And so what's going on? He goes, well, this guy doesn't help, does he? Pointing at Scott McLaughlin when you're going to compete. It's the Valtteri Bottas situation, isn't it? Yeah, but my teammate's Lewis Hamilton. I mean, come on.
And Jack LeBrock, he drove well come second in that race as well. But really congratulations to Fabian. He because they're obviously in the team's championship as well.
Yeah.
And that's a lot closer than the drivers' championship. I haven't got the points here, but it's a lot closer. So they're very keen on that because, you know, it's not only the kudos of being number one team, you also get a very preferential spot in the pit lane, which is up the top.
Which is extraordinarily helpful in some situations where the pit lanes are very dicey.
Right. And Shane, I mean, just going through the Kiwi drivers, I suppose, Shane, Andre came fourth in that race, which was pretty good for him. But
he had a good weekend, Andre Heimgartner.
Well, Shane just kept everybody there, didn't he, for ages and ages and ages until his tyres were buggered completely. And he kept the whole field behind him. I don't know what he was driving, but it was fatter than anything I'd ever seen. Superb driving on his part.
I'd say so.
Absolutely superb driving. But you knew once he was passed by one car, history. And it was. He went all the way down to the 9th position in the end, which is a bit of a shame to the effort he put in. But how they could get it so wrong, and you get the Shell V-Power team getting it so right with tyres. Everybody's tyres were blistering, no problem at all, except Jack LeBrock, strangely, who was second, and he was driving like a man possessed. But yeah, it was pretty good. Race 2, Shane just, see ya, basically. He just did what he had to do, didn't he? And that was Andre Heimgartner behind him again. And that was a bit of a battle, as you say. Scott McLaughlin and then Fabian Coulthard, third and fourth. So, wait a minute. That's where it was
1, 2, 3, 4.
So all we got to do now is get Chris Pither up there as well, and then we'll go 1 through 5.
Chris was 19th. That was a bloody good race for him.
You know,
Chris was 21st and 19th and 15th in the weekend. I think that's really good for his point of view. I did like Mark Larkham getting on to, if you watch the TV broadcast, getting on to Scafie about, it's Kiwis 1, 2, 3, 4, and even Shane at the end said, all Kiwi podium. That really must.
I can't express how lucky the Supercar series are to have a guy like Mark Larkham involved, and the rope that they give him to explain what's going on, and even like the people who've only just turned up to racing who don't understand it. He gives you a really interesting look, and even old buggers like yourselves and me, even I'm learning stuff out of what Larkham is saying and the way he demonstrates it. I think that when they're talking about the camera on the cars and the why they're heating up so much and why the tyres are bursting, and the information, the way it's been put, it's clear, it's concise, it's amusing, it's easy. I think he does a tremendous job. I can't say enough about that guy.
He owns pit lane now, doesn't he?
Well, he does. You know?
And he's become a bit of a benchmark for the type of reporter, speaking from a media point of view, that you need to have in pit lane.
I think so.
To reflect those things, and he does an extremely good job of it. You know, and it's reflective then on what you take away from the event. Mm-hmm. Looking at the championship, like you said, if McLaughlin can do well this weekend and wrap it up, ideally, to me personally, I think that's the thing that you need to aim for, because then you take away the teammate factor at Bathurst. You know, get it done and dusted. Sure.
Well, he can enjoy the defence.
It could become you just need to finish 10th type scenario at Bathurst, but races are races. They want to win, and so they should. But if you could get it done and dusted before Bathurst, it kind of would make Bathurst a whole new race.
There's got to be a part of both of you guys that don't want it. There's a part of me, as much as I'd love to see him win his third consecutive championship, there's something about the pressure of having to finish at Bathurst with everything on the line that just adds that bit of crackle to the event. Come on, really.
Pressure on the teammate.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Huge pressure on all of the teammates because no one's had endurance experience this year.
No Sandown, no Phillip Island.
And where do they start? At the daddy of all endurance tracks. Like, don't mess this up, guys. Just keep it on the black stuff for how long? 6 hours? 7 hours? Go well.
Crowd limit for Bathurst is 4,000 people. That's it. So it's not really going to be.
It's going to be different this year as well, because isn't it going to be later and
be a little bit later
and colder?
Yeah, colder. And changes very fast there.
Well, at least we get a rest, because normally with Bathurst, as soon as that's finished, you've got to shake your head and the Japanese Grand Prix starts. So at least
and then you've got normally Surface Paradise the following weekend and all that sort of carry on. So there's none of that.
Going back to what you were saying about being lucky with the championship and all, just reflecting on it, I think that the Supercars Championship is exceptionally lucky to have Kiwis in it, like Scott McLaughlin and Shane Van Gisbergen. Without those two there, without the element that Shane brings to the driving, because you got to say he's always exciting.
You always know where Shane is. Everybody knows where he is.
And without the clinical go forward that Scott's got, and the sort of antipathy between the two of them, because they get on, but they don't.
Yeah, but you need that. That's called entertainment.
Exactly. Okay, take those two guys out of it. The championship would be much worse off if they were not there.
Yeah, I fully agree.
And you pointed out two very distinctly different styles of driving, but still very effective, and that's what makes it so fantastic.
Well, that's what makes the sport the heroes and villains. You know, you support one, you don't support the other, or whatever. But that is where the sport bit crosses over into entertainment, and that's what a lot of categories need. And we have it in Formula One, IndyCar, wherever, and Supercar's no different.
We really have to get Mark Fogarty on, who despite our
he's due another wind-up, isn't he?
Well, despite our needling of Mark Fogarty, there isn't a more what's the word? Level-headed, knowledgeable person about all that racing in Australia. I mean, he gets a perspective on it that nobody else does. Cynical, yes, but nonetheless, I'd like to see his get his
staying with your McLaughlin theme. Obviously, it was announced last week that he will compete in the last race of the IndyCar season at St. Pete. Well, clearly it sounds like it is, doesn't it?
Roger Penske thinks it is.
Interesting circuit to make your debut at, as we mentioned, I think, in the previous show. It's a hard track to drive. I've been there a couple of times, and it gets pretty narrow. So, but he's set to start there. The car looks exactly like a supercar, all done out in Shell Pennzoil colours. So it'll look pretty smart. So that's game on. So that's a bit of IndyCar news.
Before you carry on with that, we've got to finish off the supercars. We're out of points.
Just looking
I tell you
here.
what, this guy and his IndyCars be the death of all of us. And rest.
Scott McLaughlin, incidentally, is 215 points ahead. It's 300 points for next weekend, and then Bathurst. So there's 300 points in one race there, effectively. So at least it's 3 races next weekend. So, yeah, he's got a hand and 3 fingers on the trophy, but it ain't done yet. It's got to be done, but it ain't done yet.
Right. What's happening in IndyCar? Back we go.
But like the other Scott, he's got his hand on the trophy, but it's not quite done yet.
I know.
And the US media this week have kind of had a little bit of a go at him after Mid-Ohio. So for anyone who's watching in the US, he's our boy. So, yeah, McLaughlin, St. Pete should happen. We think so. So let's just assume it's going to. Yeah. Big debut meeting for him for sure.
I haven't heard it's not. Nobody said it's not happening.
Other IndyCar news, new circuit for next year, Nashville, Motor City. Music. City, Motor City's Detroit.
North,
and that'll be good to see. You know, hometown hero there, Joseph Newgarden. He was born there. He's a local Tennessee boy. So I believe it's a Tony Cotman design circuit, so another New Zealander who does circuit designing. Good one to add. It's only 3.5 hours or so from Indianapolis, so you know it'll be good for the teams. So they're already thinking 2021. Let's hope 2021 plays itself out a lot better than 2020. Elio Castroneves on the drivers' market said that he is actively looking for drives for IndyCar, full-time or 500. And so there's quite a bit going on already. So we'll see how all that develops. But
when's the next race? I've forgotten. 2 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah,
2 weeks
back at IMS on the road course.
Yeah.
So, yeah, season's not done. For those that were critical about Dixon, the bit there was they felt that, you know, the spin at Mid-Ohio, in fact, one of the US articles I read said it was a rookie mistake.
He said it was a rookie mistake. You know, we know it was a rookie mistake. Mistakes happen.
It happened, but what you need to also take into account was his recovery from it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that wasn't a rookie recovery.
No, that's not. That's a recovery of a champion. So
essentially, for all those people over there who are critical of Scott Dixon, bugger off.
Yeah, or leave us a comment or a like while you can.
No, just bugger off.
I think that a bit like what we were saying just before about LeMans, you know, and the extra 4 hours of darkness. When we go back to IMS, you know, in a couple of weeks' time, you're talking virtually October, and having been in Indy at that time of the year, that is way different temperature-wise to what it was earlier in the year. So it could be quite a different, I expect it to be quite a different race to what we've seen there already this year. So, yeah.
Right, also, back over the weekend, MotoGP,
which, you know, I sat down and I tried to make notes of this because I thought we've got a weekend without Formula 1, we've got to stay up, watch this properly. I made notes of it. I gave up after about the third lap.
It changes every 3 seconds.
Jack Miller got a huge jump off the line after he was just about, I don't know if you saw his accident the day before, he was absolutely buggered. He could hardly get back on the bike, but he did get back on the bike to finish the practice session. I don't know how they do it. Anyway, Jack Miller, he got a real scintillating start all the way through. He lost the lead halfway through lap 1. I'm reading off little bits and pieces then. And then Morbidelli fell off on lap 1. So it's one of the big championships. Lap 2, Viñales got into a big lead, got past Jack Miller and got into a big lead. And Rossi went down as well, Valentino Rossi. He went down and got back on the bike, but then he retired a little later on with 11 laps to go. And Brad Binder also fell off on lap 2. As they said on TV, nobody wants to win this race. Lap 4, Binder had got back on his bike and fell off again. Then Bagnaia was attacking Viñales at the front. Jack Miller was out with the engine, maybe a hurt body, because I think he just.
That's what happens when you fall off a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah, multiple times. 7 laps to go. Bagnaia threw it away, the lead, and fell off. And so it was Viñales to win. He just kind of won it all. 4 laps to go. Espargaro and Quartararo and Mir, they were battling like you wouldn't believe it. They were battling so much. Mir, in the 3rd position of the 3, just came through around 2 of them and got 2nd. It was a magnificent overtake. And the last lap, Quartararo, who was, he was right up front there. He was given a long lap for going over the track limits. So he fell down all the way to where did he get to? 4th in the end instead of 2nd. So Maverick Viñales on the Yamaha, pretty happy to do that. only 13 finished out of all that lot, which was a pretty amazing
road
race.
Sounds like an enduro.
Yeah, at Misano. Pretty amazing. Anyway.
Anything else over the weekend, Bob? We look forward now.
NASCAR have gone now to the last 12 for their playoffs, so it's going to continue for another couple of 3 weekends. There was lots more going on the weekend, but we could be here all day talking about it. But next weekend...
Yes, let's look forward. What are we going to set our
internationally, we've got
for?
Formula One at Sochi, Russia. If that follows to pattern, it's going to be a boring old race. It really is.
At least the track's pretty. Taylor Bend.
Not really. There's Formula 2 there as well, so Marcus Armstrong will be out in that. We've got the V8 supercars at the Bend again, Tailem Bend, but on the short track, not on the track they used at the weekend. And that might
because that was a long lap, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
just under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's the track with trees.
Yeah. So that might alleviate a little bit going on. We got NASCAR at Las Vegas. Then we got the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. We've got Super Formula with Quick Nick at AIDA, British Touring Car Championship with Dick Bennett. We're going to get him on soon. Dick Bennett, because he's leading every championship there is to lead.
West Surrey Racing.
West Surrey Racing. Not he's leading. His team are leading,
yes.
and his drivers are leading. And we've got MotoGP at Catalunya, so they're having a bit of a go as well. Icebreaker at Hampton Downs. This is not international now, as you might have guessed. There's a New Zealand Hill Climb Championship, Nelson. MG Classic Racing Register at Manfield Oval. Of course, you can see all this happening at the bottom of the screen here. Look, it whizzes past quickly.
Magic.
Mini Pikes Peak Gravel Hill Climb Wanganui, Queenstown Car Club, Track Day at Highlands, South Canterbury Car Club, Spring Rally. It's your lot.
And on that,
But
It's the lot.
they may change because of COVID.
yeah, EOC because of COVID.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
DTC due to COVID.
due to
It's going to haunt us all. I'm Darcy Waldegrave. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for listening. That's Bob McMurray. That's David Turner. Don't forget to subscribe and like on YouTube specifically or across all of the other platforms that we put Racing World on. It'll keep us going. It'll keep us in business. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to catching up again next time here at Racing World. Race Control Magazine is your IndyCar fan mag and so much more. Publishing monthly online on issuu.com, you will find Race Control Magazine there for you to download and enjoy everything IndyCar and so much more. Behind the scenes features, race reports and the entire Road to Indy series are just part of what you will find along with stunning images captured from the series' leading photographers. Grab your copy today at issw.com to complete your motorsport read.
You have a dream. You have all the drive in the world. You have talent to burn. Now all you need is a chance. Toyota are committed to developing and nurturing New Zealand's next generation of world-class racing drivers, because if you can dream it, we can do it.
Racing World is presented by Race Control Magazine.